Right now on Upfront.
War of words.
It's really made Wisconsin a national embarrassment.
The Republicans are becoming very good at, and that is lying.
The budget battle intensifying. Nationwide attention, the governor's proposal in the spotlight. Now the road ahead. Republicans preparing a new tax cut plan. Assembly Majority Leader Tyler August is here with it all.
Countdown to debate night.
Elon Musk has no idea who I am or about anything I've done.
I've never met nor talked to Elon Musk.
Big money flowing in the race for state Supreme Court. Our primetime debate now just 10 days away. Democratic Party of Wisconsin Chairman Ben Wickler is here.
Fiery town halls.
Do your job! Do your job!
Packed rooms, the budget resolution just passing the House. Fears of Medicaid cuts. Congressman Glenn Grothman standing by, just moments away.
This is Upfront with Jaron Jordan and political director Matt Smith.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. The back and forth escalating between Republican leaders and Democratic Governor Tony Evers.
New revelations about what's included in the governor's budget proposal while Republicans prepare their own tax cut plan. And now nationwide attention after the governor's proposal included word changes to be more gender neutral, like mother to inseminated person. The governor saying the added protections are for same-sex couples and in vitro fertilization.
Republican Representative Tyler August is the Assembly Majority Leader. He joins us now. Representative, welcome back to the show. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. Thanks for having me again.
All right, we're going to walk through a bunch of this. Let's start with tax cuts and the Republican plan. Assembly and Senate Republicans just meeting. When can we see details of this tax cut plan?
Sure. I think you'll see something pretty soon. We had a really productive meeting this week between Assembly and Senate Republican leadership to get on the same page. We want to have broad tax cuts that cover every Wisconsinite. We think that our plan will be big and bold enough that conservatives can get behind it, but also targeted to the middle class, and the governor should be able to support it as well.
Is there agreement between the Assembly and Senate Republicans?
I think in principle we have an agreement on how we want to move forward.
And would every taxpayer in the state see a tax cut?
That is the plan.
I want to ask about the governor's tax cut proposal, $2 billion, targets property taxes and several sales tax eliminations, including on tips and prescription drugs. Is that something that you support?
Sure. So obviously the president's been out there talking about the elimination of taxes on tips. So it's actually refreshing to see the governor actually not just discarding something that the president says. It's maybe he's finally accepting that the president is the president. In his first couple of speeches, I was a little unsure. He'd seem to still be trying to fight the November battle. So those are details that we're still working on. I think you're going to definitely see that at the federal level. It was something that the president ran on, and so it's certainly something we're taking a look at here.
Are you going to copy and paste the governor's $2 billion proposal and put it in your plan?
That is not going to happen. It is a shell game that what the governor has done with his $2 billion, even with some of the property taxes. The local municipalities, the way he has it structured, will actually do better if they financially if they choose to not take the payment from the state and continue to accept their net new construction on the property taxes. So it's kind of funny money. You mentioned some of the sales tax exemptions. The sales tax exemption on energy costs seems like a great idea, but what the governor doesn't say is he backfills that with a new tax or an increased tax on the actual utility companies itself, which will just get passed down to ratepayers again anyway. So there's a lot of shell games going on. The governor clearly knows that his record on taxes is weak, and he's trying to shore that up.
Democrats have said, and I think the governor has hinted at this as well, that they are not open to a standalone tax cut bill ahead of the budget. How far are you willing to take this to get this done before the budget?
Well, our position has been clear that the one-time surplus is only here because the governor continues to veto tax cuts. So our position as legislative Republicans has always been that money is for tax cuts, not for continued spending, not for bloating government, not for creating new government programs. So we expect that money to be used for tax cuts, and that's our plan.
Would you hold up on passing the state budget if this doesn't get done first?
Well, look, I mean, I think that it depends on how the governor's going to react to the tax cuts. I mean, we are very adamant that this money needs to be returned to the taxpayers.
The first few pieces of legislation that the Assembly has passed is focused on education. Obviously, there's a big state superintendent of education race going on right now. Should Republicans back Brittany Kinzer in the race for DPI superintendent?
That's who I'm supporting, absolutely. I mean, I think Jill Underly has done just an awful job. She's been there for one term. She's done such a terrible job that she decided to cook the books on performance standards. She lowered the standards to make herself look bad, to look better. And look, it's very rare that I agree with Tony Evers on things, but Tony Evers and I actually agree on something, that lowering those standards was a huge mistake. And Brittany Kinzer is the only candidate in the state that says we should go back to Tony Evers' own standards that he set when he was DPI superintendent. And so it's unfortunate that we even had to bring up Assembly Bill 1 to restore those standards. We should have a DPI superintendent that believes that students can meet whatever standard we set to them as long as we give them the tools to do so.
Have you spoken to the governor or anyone in his office about the bill? Is there any indication that he will sign that bill to return the standards to the National Report Card?
I haven't spoken to him or anyone in his office directly about this, but they are the standards that were set when he was DPI superintendent. He publicly said that it was a mistake what Joe Underly did, and so I would fully expect that he would sign it.
The governor received a lot of criticism from Republicans this past week over the provision in his budget that changes words like father and mother to inseminated person. The governor essentially fired back at Republicans. I want to take a listen to his comments.
I didn't know that Republicans were against IVF, but apparently they are, because that is what that's about. Moms are moms, dads are dads, and what we want is legal certainty that we're able to have, that moms are able to get the care they need. That's it. End of story. You know, you can count on this being, you know, something that the Republicans are becoming very good at, and that is lying. And it's really unfortunate that we're in this position.
The governor essentially saying Republicans are lying about this.
Yeah, he says that a lot. I'm not surprised. The governor has not been leading this state in a bipartisan, nonpartisan way like he claims that he is. I mean, he said it right there. Moms are moms, dads are dads. Well, then he should be asked, why are you changing the term mother to inseminated person? That is unbelievably offensive to the mothers that I've talked to, including those within my own family that just don't understand why they would be treated that way by this governor. Look, this is just yet another example of the governor just placating to his woke liberal base. He's trying to sneak it through, hoping no one would notice. And it's ridiculous to infer that say that Republicans are against IVF. That could not be farther from the truth. Our caucus is not against IVF. He's trying to throw that out there to muddy the issue. They got caught trying to do something that they probably truly believe in erasing the term mother from our state statutes, and they're trying to throw all of this up as a smokescreen. Republicans don't oppose IVF. Apparently, Tony Evers opposes calling mothers mothers.
To what the governor said surrounding IVF, he said this is needed to add better protections for same-sex couples who are using IVF. Are you supportive of that?
Well, look, I haven't seen that there has been any issue with the current law. I mean, we are not aware of any instance where this part of the statute has prohibited any same-sex couple from having protections in IVF. Again, it's just another attempt by the governor to woke up our statutes with some of this garbage, which was frankly rejected soundly at the polls in November. Donald Trump ran on a lot of issues like this. And I'd once again remind the governor that Donald Trump won the state of Wisconsin on these issues.
Another busy week ahead. Assembly Majority Leader Tyler August, thank you so much, like always, for your time. We appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Great being here with both of you. Thanks a lot.
Up next, countdown to our primetime state Supreme Court debate. Big spending on both sides. Democratic Party of Wisconsin Chairman Ben Wickler is with us next.